We are gathered, as you may realise, ladies and gentlemen, to celebrate the extraordinary career of Tim Jones. My guess is that this evening's celebrations at the Dickens Inn will be long and lively, and with John Wellman's speech to come and poor Tim Jones's reply to follow, quite rude. So my version of it will be relatively short and sweet. Tim's retirement fills me with great anxiety on two levels. The first is this. I first met Tim about 18 months ago, or about a year ago in fact, when I was doing the business editor's job, and he wandered in and he said, "Dear boy, I have to plan my pension. Should I put it all in cash?" And given what was a clear question and a stark decision, I did what anybody else in my position would do, which was I avoided the question and I hedged my bets and I sent him to Patrick Hosking. And I think the consequence of that is that Tim avoided the question and hedged his bets and still has some of his pension, as far as I understand it, not in cash. So I hope that while you're enjoying things at the Dickens Inn, George W. Bush and Hank Paulson will be arranging for you the $700 billion send-off that you deserve. More importantly, I'm anxious about the retirement of Tim, because it's not clear to me that the Times can function without him. He has, in every sense, been at the centre of our what we do as a newspaper and at the centre of our newsroom. The modern history of the Times has happened quite literally around Tim. He is a man who joined the paper, as I'm sure you know, in 1967. He became the Wales correspondent in 1977, and then came back to London. And he has, I was looking through the notes, he has done an extraordinary number of things, whether it has been being held hostage at gunpoint by the IRA, being beaten up, covering criminal trials. I think fantastic run covering the Chelsea Flower Show, but perhaps he has had the most unenviable job that you could imagine in the modern history of the Times, which was covering the union strikes at Wapping. And that's an incredibly difficult job. The competition, as you can imagine, at that time was unbelievably fierce, and yet Tim did what seemed to me to be an extraordinary thing, which he scooped the rest of Fleet Street on the end of the strike and the fact of moving here. Exactly, spent the rest of his time. I think actually that was the great mistake of Tim's career, doing unenviable jobs, because there can be no more unenviable job than sitting at the heart of the newsroom and being responsible for making sure that we as a newspaper don't miss a story. And he has done that with extraordinary diligence and commitment and what we would call in our trade character. I think that Tim embodies so much that we admire about ourselves in terms of his passion for news and his sharp tongue and his capacity for mischief, and so much, without going into too much detail, that we can't help about ourselves. And so I have no doubt that Tim will have a terrific retirement. We will miss you very, 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 very greatly, and I just wanted to thank you and congratulate you on an extraordinary career at the Times.
Thank you. Dear friends, it's an emotional day for me, because not only am I giving up a large part of my life, I'm giving up a large slice of my extended family. And young reporters who think I'm from the Jurassic Age come to me in awe and say, how is it that you've survived 40 years on the Times? It's just extraordinary. Well, It's all to do with the advanced art of ducking and diving and keeping my head beneath the parapet. The first mistake I ever made was under my first editor when I beat William Rees-Mogg at chess. Well, how stupid is that? Because any fool knows you play your boss at golf, you lose. After that debacle, it became clear that I wouldn't rise to any great heights, and so I formulated the strategy of never having to speak to an editor again. And it worked with extraordinary success, because my greatest achievement in this field was under the editorship of Harry Evans. Not only did I never speak to the guy, I never saw him. Not once, it's true. And but I did figure in Harry Evans' life, because I wrote a great exclusive for the Times, self-praise, which concerned a land deal involving Dennis Thatcher. And in his book, Good Times, Bad Times, Harry Evans recounts how that story fractured the relationship between number 10 Downing Street and our great newspaper. So, what did Harry Evans do? Did he take me to the Savoy for a slap-up lunch? Nil point. Did he take me into his office for a pay rise? Nil point. No. He turned to his deputy and said, Harry Evans, and he said, Tim Jones, he said, does he work for us? Now, I thought that until as recently as last Friday, I thought this strategy was beginning to slide, because for the first time since our splendid new editor took over his seat, he actually stopped me just down there and exchanged a few words with me. I thought, I've blown it. But then it became apparent he thought he was talking to Tom Pry. Well, you know, just in case you guys think that all I've done is ducked and dived, I've done a bit of reporting along the way. Now, James has mentioned being beaten up and shot at and held hostage by one of Sean O'Neill's mates in Londonderry. And, but you know, it hasn't all been to do with that. I covered the Winter of Discontent, which was interesting, and probably the end effect of that was to make papers like ours sustainable. We have a view on that. One of the best things I ever did, in my opinion, was to cover the great chess match between Fischer and Spassky in Iceland. Because of the Times, and only because of the Times, I've flown over the great northern ice sheets and over volcanoes. I've seen killer whales hunting in packs in the great southern sea. And I've, as the editor mentioned, I've covered lots and lots of huge court cases, including the first and only war crimes trial in Britain. In fact, I remember John Wellman rang me up on that Saturday, and I thought, oh God, I missed a comma. But it was in fact to congratulate me, and I loved that. Who wouldn't? And we mentioned the highlight of my career, the Chelsea Flower Show, and thanks a lot for that. And I've also, I don't know why, I've done a bit of politicking. I've had tea with Alex Douglas-Hume, smoked fine cigars and sipped brandy with Harold Wilson. Young reporters, look these names up. Callaghan, James Callaghan, for some extraordinary reason, gave me a huge scoop. I've been on the yacht with Ted Heath, sipped wine with Margaret Thatcher, and I can claim to be directly responsible for the birth of New Labour, because when I can, because when I took Tony Blair out to lunch when he was Shadow Transport Secretary, he wasn't particularly interested in telling me his views on six-axle trucks, whatever they are. All he wanted to do was pick my brains, and the rest is history. So I come to the end of my history on the Times. Come on, James, wake up. It's been a fantastic, wonderful, and unforgettable experience. We work for the greatest newspaper in the world, in my opinion. And how I envy you boys and girls who will come here on Monday to continue this fantastic adventure that we're all on. And the friends I made, they're too many to mention. Wonderful, talented people. So, as I walk away with my lovely wife, I'll paraphrase a thought from one of my favourite poets, Mr. Dylan Thomas. And he said, well, my paraphrase is, I will not go gently into that dark night. I am going to rock and roll. Broad daylight.
Can I join? Well, it takes me out. That is mine.